Hello lovelies, welcome to today's video, and yes, as the title suggests, I'm making a new junk journal today. Now this was actually a present for an online Arty friend of mine that sent me something really beautiful, and as a thank you I wanted to send something else, and I figured I would give her a junk journal. But this is a special kind of junk journal. This is an art journal kind of junk journal. So when you see the papers I choose for my signatures, don't be shocked. So I did this video long before we moved house, so at least 4 weeks ago. But I didn't want to post it until I knew she had received it. And I was lucky enough that she posted on Instagram just this week that she got it. So I was very excited to be able to finally share this video with you. It took me a little longer than I would have liked to actually send this to her, thanks to the move. But yeah, I had it all ready to go, and yeah, really, she's already started working in it. I was really excited to see on her Instagram. So I will leave a link in the description below to Niamh's awesome YouTube channel. I love watching her YouTube videos, and you never know, we might be lucky enough to see this journal feature in a video in the near future. So I'll link you to her awesome page. But yeah, so this was made as a thank you, basically. A while back on my Instagram I posted I wasn't having a great day, and she sent me some nice messages, but then she also said she wanted to send me something she had made. It was an awesome apron, and then I had a scrap chat video. I'll see if I can find the link for it and add that as well, and that way you can see what she sent me. Yeah, and so as a thank you, I wanted to make something that I could make, something of mine, something creative of mine that she might enjoy. And she's been doing some awesome art journal videos lately, so I thought she really might get a kick out of this. So onto the process. I always start with old books. Now I get mine just from op shops, and I'm not really fussed by the covers because I tend to cover them anyway. But if I find one with a really cute cover, I'm going to keep it. But for the most part, this is one of my smaller books, thinner spine. So I only put 2 signatures in here, but I do make them fairly decent, and you'll see in a minute. So I just get some scrapbook paper. I always cover the inside first, and I cover the 2 covers on the inside, and then I put my spine, I reinforce my spine with some cardstock generally. And then I'm going to let that sit aside and dry. I always use a bone folder to score the grooves. 1, so the glue attaches really well, but 2, so it keeps the shape of the book before it, if that makes sense. I love the look of junk journals when they look like books. I'm a book nerd, so that's important to me. Now, this is where I said don't be creeped out by the pages I've used. Now, I use big pieces of easel, like an easel paper pad, as drop pieces behind all my mixed media works, because I tend to make a big mess, as you can see. And I just can't throw them away. They're too good. They could be used for something, whether it be gel prints or, in this case, a junk journal. So I decided, and I had this in mind for the past few weeks. So when I was creating, I was intentionally making a mess on my drop sheet. So I was brayering off onto them instead of in my spare book or an art journal. I was trying to get as much pattern, texture and colour onto these drop sheets as I possibly could, because I knew I wanted to use them as pages in the junk journal. So I'm using these. I've got all different sizes. When they were all the offcuts were too small, I was cutting them down. So there are different sized pages in the journal. And then I've also got pieces of graph paper. I went and found a graph paper pad, and I think there's some copy paper in there as well. But what I'm about to do, right now I'm working on my 2 signatures, so I like to have them even, so the same amount of paper in each. And I decided to fill out the rest of the book with watercolor paper. So this is a heavier kind of paper, and it's also plain, as you can see, there's nothing on it. So it's sort of like a junk journal that she, pages that she can add to herself. So I've got, I also tend to add more pages as I'm working. So you will see me pull out other random pages just to fill out these signatures a bit more. I'm also going to pull out some gel prints because we know I have a massive collection of prints that I love to make and struggle to find a use for. So I'm also going to fill out the signatures with some of those as well. So this is what I do. I make sure they're all the same size, height-wise. Obviously, some of them are smaller than others, as you know what I mean. I just make sure that they're all going to fit inside the book. So I have one base that I make sure fits inside the cover, and then I will trim all my papers down from that to match. And then if I have smaller ones, I just make sure they're not too long or stick out from the book cover. And then I go and put them all inside each other as best I can. So I try and keep the spine or the middle lined up in most of them. It's not overly important right now until I start stitching, but I like to try and get it all together so I can see that I don't have too many of the same pages next to each other. So not too many plain ones, not too many, gel prints, just to get some good variety in a nice order that I'm happy with. So basically all I've done is I've got my 2 signatures. I'm putting them inside my book to see that it fills out my book nicely. I don't want it too chunky, but I don't want it too thin either. I want it to be able to take some extra weight if need be. You know how when you have a book, it gets chunky when you've been playing with it. I wanted to make sure that there was enough room there, but also so that it wasn't too thin and it just didn't look weird, if that makes sense. So I've sorted out my 2 signatures and I'm good to go. So this is where I'm making my cheat sheet. So I get a piece of cardstock that is the length of the book top to bottom. And then I work out where I want my 3 holes for my stitching to go. So I start with the middle, and then I halve the top and bottom and put another dot with my pokey tool. This is what I'm going to use as a template to put all of my holes in my book and my signatures so that everything is lined up perfectly. So I've got my paper clips. I also use bobby pins to do this because they're nice and long. If I have a smaller page or an insert, I use bobby pins. So what I'm doing is I'm putting all my pages together so that they're all lined up. Make sure it's up the right way. Many times I have stitched in a signature upside down, but I've put all my pages together, I've lined them up, I've lined up my spine, so even if I have smaller pages, they're still in a good spot. And then I'm using the paper clips to hold it still so none of those pages move, and then I'm going to stitch it in. Now, this is where I struggle to explain. It is a very simple stitch. I can't sew worth a damn, but I can do this, and not one of my signatures has fallen out. So you always start with the middle. So I go from the inside, through my spine, out the back. And then I go in through any hole, top or bottom, doesn't matter. But you go in through that hole, and then you're going to go back out through the middle, and then back in the opposite hole that you hadn't used yet, and then you tie it in the middle, and that's done. It's called a pamphlet stitch. It's very, very simple. If I can do it, trust me, you can too. So I've kept it in here twice so you can kind of hopefully see what I've done. So I'm just going to sew in my next signature. I've just done the exact same thing. I've lined up all my pages. I've used my cheat sheet to stab my holes. So I have already put the holes in my spine. You would have seen me do that. That's the first thing I do with my cheat sheet. I put the holes in my spine for all my signatures, and then I go and stab the holes in my signatures separately. So then all I have to do is just thread that needle straight through. I use waxed linen thread. I got a spool off eBay for about $3, and I've still got plenty left, and I've made a few of these. So yeah, it's very simple, trust me. If I can do it, so can you. If I haven't explained the stitch very well, Google it or try YouTubing it, because it is really simple, and I'm sure that you'll get the hang of it. Once you do it once or a couple of times, you're really pretty good. The only problem I ever have sometimes is not tying it tightly in the middle and having a bit of slack. So make sure you pull that thread nice and tight and then tie it off. So my signatures are in. You would have had a nice little look at all my signatures. Now I'm just going to decorate my cover. Some people choose not to do this. I like to do it. I just love the look it gives. I have a whole bunch of unique books that are all mine. And yeah, they're on my shelf, all my journals, and I just like the way it looks. It's a personal preference, really. So I've picked my paper. Generally with the books I choose, I'm lucky enough that one 12 by 12 sheet will do the back and front. And then I use a different pattern or colour for my spine. In this case, I use all pattern paper. I don't use cardstock for my spine on the outside. I'm using gel medium. I used to use a glaze by Kaiser Craft, but I haven't been able to get it as much. So I thought I would experiment with gel medium. Works great. It works probably better than the glaze because it doesn't dry as fast. I was having serious issues with the glaze. But yeah, I love it. So gel medium does the exact same job. I have plenty of this stuff thanks to my mixed media habits. So yeah, it works really well. I'm using, again, a silicone brush. I love to use a silicone brush for any kind of gesso, paint, or gel medium because it's so much easier to clean. So what I'm doing is the exact same thing I did on the inside. I have measured out my piece of pattern paper and I've glued it down. I don't overlap over the sides and fold. I cut to the width. So literally I am just sticking it on top of. I've measured it to the exact size of my cover and stuck it down. I'm going to do the exact same thing for my spine. I'm going to make sure the glue is in there really well though, because I really want that paper to have contact with the groove, and I want that groove to stay, so you'll see it on the outside and it'll look like a book, if that makes sense. So I will get my bone folder in there and yeah, score those lines really well so that you can get that beautiful book spine that you see. I don't know, it's just me. I really enjoy the way these look, and it just looks more like an actual book if you put those grooves in. My personal opinion. So quick flick through, and that's the journal. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it has been informative, and I hope it has really helped you figure out how I do this and hopefully help you figure out how to do it for yourself. Thanks for watching. I'll see you real soon. Bye for now.